The story of women's running, everybody knows about the civil rights movement and you know how blacks were oppressed and the things that it took to overturn those things. What they don't know about is the crazy history with women's running. In the United States, women were forbidden to go on the track from 1928 to 1958, except for the sprints. You could be banned from any sport. You couldn't play ping pong or anything else if you stepped on a track and ran more than 220 yards, because we all knew that women were much too frail to do that. Even though we grew up seeing pioneer women crossing, you know, my grandmother saw covered wagons and women walking 2,000 miles across the country, or Sacagawea at, 14 years old with a baby on her back going 5,000 miles. Everybody knows that women can't do more than the 220. It was all based on an actual media hoax. New York Times and other papers ran an article that all the women in the 1928 Olympics collapsed and fell to the ground, and the pictures were photoshopped, and it became gospel truth, even though it was a total falsehood until several of us looked up the original movies and said, didn't happen. They all went home to dinner. They were fine. But then the Olympics in 1960 had a woman's 880. Whoopee! And when I was in the height of training, I was an 80-mile-a-week runner. And to run the 880 with that kind of mileage is so silly. But anyway, they allowed us a little opening. So, but they said, of course, there won't be anybody there. And 30 people came, and most of us were gangly teenagers with T-shirts and our brother's shorts and so on. And from that group came many of the really top runners in the 60s and 70s. The first woman to run, Judy Eikenberry, to win the national marathon, Doris Heritage. I have to go through the various names I've known over the years. Heritage, who won 5 international cross-country championships. All these great people came from this bunch of teenagers who said, yay, the door is open. Even in 1962, after I had run the Manchester race, the head of the women's AAU came over and put her arm around me and said, you know, Julia, you're so pretty. You really shouldn't run distance. Do you see Grace Butcher there? She used to be pretty before she tried to run. It was a spunky bunch of people. Chris McKenzie was an English runner, had a baby in the late 50s. So she would jump into races, and she had a sign on her back that says, if I can carry a baby for 9 months, I can run a 10K. And what happened was the media actually, and the male runners, just became incredibly supportive. So we pushed them back. What else? Any other strange stories? Loads of strange stories. I mean, there were no clothes. My first Olympic trials, they taped my coach's shoes to my feet because there was nothing for women. Yeah. Anyway, so we've come a long way, and it seems so completely natural. And enjoy the privilege and the road and the fun of it.